Dear listeners, I hope you are well. I am also well, and I am always in the good team. Listeners, if you like our videos, then like, comment, and share. Your every like, comment, share is very valuable to us. So we request you to like, comment, and share, and support us by subscribing. Encourage us so that we can give you better videos in the future. So let's start our today's episode. There's something uniquely terrifying about being trapped inside a place that is supposed to keep you safe. A school is where students expect to learn, joke around with friends, and count down the minutes until the final bell rings. But for the people in these three stories, an ordinary school day suddenly turned into something they would never forget. These are three terrifying stories of school lockdowns, and each one started like any other normal day. It was a Friday afternoon. The final period of the day had already begun, and everyone in the calculus class was ready for the weekend. Spring break was almost here. Nobody wanted to think about homework or tests. Fortunately, there wasn't a test that day. Their teacher was known for being relaxed, so instead of teaching, he decided to let the class play an online trivia game. The students were laughing and shouting out answers. Everything felt completely normal. Then the intercom came on. The dean's voice filled the classroom. But something was wrong. His voice sounded panicked. He told every teacher in the building that this was not a drill. The school was going into lockdown immediately. The atmosphere changed in seconds. Their normally relaxed teacher rushed to turn off the lights. He told everyone to get away from the windows and move toward the back corner of the classroom. The students sat silently. At first, nobody knew exactly what was happening. Then the electricity suddenly went out. The familiar sounds coming from the classroom equipment disappeared. The room became even quieter. That was when the students realized something serious was happening. A few minutes passed. Then they heard screaming. A man was somewhere in the hallway. His voice was getting closer. Two students started crying. The screaming became louder and louder. Then came the sound of something slamming against the lockers. Bang! 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 The man was moving down the hallway, and he was yelling, threatening everyone inside. The class sat frozen. Then the banging stopped. For one terrifying second, there was silence, and then, bang! Someone started pounding on their classroom door. The students immediately panicked. The man outside screamed for them to open it. One of the frightened girls accidentally screamed. That only seemed to make the situation worse. The pounding continued. Everyone in the classroom was convinced that the door could open at any second. But eventually, the banging stopped. The man moved farther down the hallway. His screams slowly disappeared. Several minutes later, the dean finally returned to the intercom. The school had discovered that a disturbed man had entered the building. He had reportedly attacked a woman near the front office before she managed to escape. The staff didn't know whether the man was carrying a weapon. Security began searching the school. Eventually, they couldn't find him. Classes were allowed to continue, but every classroom remained locked. Later, however, an even more disturbing rumor began spreading. A janitor working later that night reportedly discovered the man hiding inside a storage area. According to students, there were rumors that he may have been carrying a powerful handgun. Before police could properly secure the situation, the man disappeared. And as far as the students knew, nobody ever learned what happened to him. But for everyone sitting inside that classroom, one memory never disappeared. The sound of someone violently pounding on the door, while they sat silently on the other side. The second story happened at a middle school. The school had 2 different lunch periods. On this particular day, the first lunch period had just begun. The weather outside was dark and rainy. Then suddenly, 4 loud booms echoed through the area. At first, one student assumed it was thunder, but then something strange happened. Students began screaming. Within moments, campus security rushed toward the lunch area. They started yelling for everyone to get inside. Students who were standing in line for food had to abandon everything. Everyone was quickly moved into a large, multi-purpose room. Nobody knew what was happening. The room had a large glass wall facing outside. As students entered, staff members immediately began closing the curtains. Adults stood near every exit. The students were confused. One boy decided to ask an adult what was going on. When he returned to his friends, he explained what he had heard. A man living near the school had apparently barricaded himself inside or around his property. The situation was dangerous. According to what the students were told, the man had threatened both himself and the police. But what made everyone even more uncomfortable was the location. The man lived extremely close to the school. Students had apparently seen him watching children before. As more information spread, they learned that the man was considered dangerous. The lockdown continued. Minutes turned into nearly an hour. Nobody was allowed to leave the room. Eventually, the situation outside was brought under control. The students were escorted back toward their classrooms. But one student later discovered something disturbing. The man involved in the incident lived near one of his friends, and the friend had seen strange behavior from him before. During the previous Halloween, she had reportedly seen the man behaving in a disturbing way near his window. At the time, she thought it might have been some kind of Halloween prank. But after the lockdown, she realized it probably wasn't. The strange man living near the school had been a real danger all along, and the students were left wondering how close the situation had come to becoming something much worse. The final story came from someone who had once been a student at the school. After finishing college, he returned to work there as a computer intern. His office was located in the school basement. It was actually a comfortable place. There were desks, computers, air conditioning, refrigerators, and a television. But one day, that basement became the worst possible place to be trapped. During his lunch break, he received a phone call. Someone from the front office told him the school was going into lockdown. There was a report that an armed person may have entered the building. Immediately, he turned off the lights. But there was a serious problem. His office didn't have a proper door, and the entrance to the basement wasn't secure either. All he could do was sit quietly. He tried texting his coworkers. Neither of them responded. For around 20 minutes, he sat alone in the darkness, waiting, listening. Then he heard the basement door open. The sound echoed through the empty area. Someone had entered. At first, he thought it might be one of his coworkers. Then he heard footsteps. Someone was coming downstairs. The footsteps were getting closer. He quickly crawled under his desk. A person entered the office, but they didn't turn on the lights. Everything went silent. Then suddenly, his phone made a sound, a text message. In that moment, he thought he had just revealed his hiding place. The footsteps moved closer. Terrified, he jumped out from under the desk and begged the person not to hurt him. A man grabbed his arm, but instead of attacking him, the stranger said that he was hiding too. The intern asked what was happening upstairs. The man avoided giving a clear answer. Instead, he asked if there was another way out of the basement. Something about him felt wrong. The intern checked his phone again. He finally saw the message from one of his coworkers. The text explained what had happened. A man with a gun had shot a teacher, and according to the message, the gunman was wearing a red shirt and a hat. The intern slowly looked up. The man standing in front of him was wearing clothes matching that description. Suddenly, everything made sense. The person hiding beside him wasn't another frightened parent. He was the person everyone was looking for. The intern ran. A gunshot exploded through the darkness. The bullet struck something nearby, but somehow he wasn't hit. He made it toward the exit. Police officers were already positioned around the building. The gunman was caught as soon as he attempted to escape. Later, the injured teacher was confirmed to have survived, but the reason behind the shooting remained unclear. And for the man who had been hiding underneath that desk, there was one sound he knew he would probably never forget. The sound of a gunshot echoing through the basement. 3 different schools, 3 different lockdowns, and 3 ordinary days that suddenly became terrifying. Sometimes the scariest part isn't knowing that something dangerous is happening. It's being trapped somewhere and having absolutely no idea where the danger is. Which of these 3 stories do you think was the most terrifying? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more disturbing real-life stories, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because there are always more stories hiding behind ordinary places